Very good. All right, at that, we'll call the meeting to order at 6:37 p.m. The Planning Commission, Sarah Had present.
Ann Pomeroy.
Albo Gel.
Casey Toof.
Hannah Rounds.
All right, and pledge allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Any changes to the agenda? Any other business to add on?
No, we got another business section.
Okay, very good. No changes to the agenda, then we'll call to order the public hearing to consider draft bylaws.
Perfect.
So with that, do you want to walk us through it?
Yeah, I'm just gonna share real quick my screen so Jonathan can see it, and Sean. Just for public disclosure, we don't have a quorum of our select board. It was like we warned it just in case if a quorum showed up, but we do have our select board chair. I think too in this, we're here to hear thoughts. The planning commission, the next meeting, I think we'll discuss changing anything, any concerns that are raised by the public. But at this point, this meeting's really just to get public feedback. We plan to have another public meeting along in the process, but we thought we would get some feedback from the public and the select board publicly before we kind of enter the next steps of the process. The town has not touched its bylaws formally in about 3 years now. So we did a full review starting in the fall with our planning commission, and with the goal of making a couple interim bylaws permanent, with addressing some of the density requirements of the state of Vermont, as well as looking at some of the other issues in the community regarding stormwater and types of businesses that potentially could come into town with voter approval. So we did our best to address those concerns from a high level. We have the sheet here that kind of briefly describes before we get to the bylaws, and we won't go through them in detail, but we will kind of just hit the high levels of the changes we made. In Article 1, the establishment of zoning and subdivision bylaws, no major changes, just basic grammatical changes and citing statute, making sure those were correct. In Article 2, subdivision regulations, 1, the sketch plan review, we remove the requirement for submission of names and addresses of all participants with financial interests in the development. 2, procedural development review, board information for all subdivisions, and we amended the cost sharing of in-depth technical review for final plat submissions to be the sole responsibility of the applicant. Article 3, general planning and design standards, no major changes. Article 4, districts, overlays, standards for each district. We removed accessory structures as conditional uses. They're now permitted in each district. This is to meet a new state statute that requires the use of accessory dwelling units.
The accessory structures is for,
the
accessory structures one is for like sheds, things like that.
We'll get to, alright, so we'll add that other one. That one's coming later on. Sorry, my mistake. 2, we added cannabis cultivation for use in commercial and industrial districts. Added daycare centers as conditional use for each district. This was an interim bylaw that we wanted to make permanent, just with the child care shortage, that anybody who could open a daycare center wherever they could. And we did include the correctional facility overlay, and while that may seem silly, if the state of Vermont decided to do some kind of a daycare center for their employees, maybe on site, some employers are doing that, we wouldn't have to come back into a bylaw change. We added family child care home use to residential and mixed residential districts. Added municipal parks as permitted uses to all districts except the correctional facility overlay. Added place of worship as conditional uses in all districts except the correctional facility overlay. Added theater as conditional use in the lake shore, in case if the town ever wanted to build like an outdoor theater or anybody wanted to do something, make it permittable. We also added in like mixed residential commercial in the St. Albans Bay district. We added retail cannabis. The voters approved on town meeting day the vote to have retail cannabis in the town of St. Albans. So we added it as a conditional use in our commercial district. So it would have to stay in our commercial districts and would obviously have to come for in front to get its conditional use passed. Added cannabis cultivation as a conditional use in the commercial and industrial district, and added multi-use business as a conditional use in each district for Article 4. Article 5, zoning permits, change square footage requirements for detached structures not requiring a permit from 50 square feet to 100 square feet. So think sheds. Right now you need a permit if you have anything over 50 square feet. We bumped that out to 100 square feet. Zoning administration enforcement, Article 6, no major changes. Article 7, general regulations, we substantially reorganized sections 700, abandonment, demolition, and destruction of structures, sections 101, abandonment of use, section 702, access management, section 703, nonconformity uses and structures in section 4, into an easier to read formatting that combines information in new sections 7.1 nonconformities, 7.2 demolition of structure, and 7.3 access management. I don't think there was an aim to do any policy change there, but more of just clarity and reorganization. Article 8, Development Review Board, change requirements of previous section 801 right-of-way or easement review for land development without frontage or with frontage via public waters to new section 8.2, which allows the DRB to approve frontage waivers for a 20-foot right-of-way to serve 2 residential lots with no more than 4 residential units, or a 60-foot right-of-way to serve a maximum of 4 residential lots with no more than 8 dwelling units. Article 9, Surface Water Protection Standards. It's a new section, new standards. It's where we put a lot of our stormwater work in. Section 10, Specific Use Standards. Change accessory dwelling units. This is where I mentioned that to be 40% of habitable square footage of a home or 900 square feet, whichever is larger. That's to match state statute. State supersedes local standards, so we just updated to meet the state standard there. Added a new criteria for landfilling, site excavation, underground services, and drainage. Added new review criteria for mining and extraction of earth resources. Exempted sign permits for commercial window signage, less than 15 square feet per window. So like those ones you've seen like McDonald's or Burger King technically violated our bylaws, but no one's ever really enforced it or complained about it, so we kind of just removed that. And we exempted sign permit. We've had a lot of issues with some people complaining about signs going up for businesses temporarily advertising that they are hiring, provided that the business is within the town. We made it so the sign that is smaller than 32 square feet, that we're exempting a permit for that, just because we want, if people are, if businesses are looking for employees, we don't want to tell them they're violating our zoning. Article 9, definitions. We had definitions for camping, sales, and service. Didn't have that before, but we've seen the Messenger report. There's interest in bringing a camping world into the town of St. Albans, so preparing for that. We defined cannabis cultivation, municipal park, and municipal park I believe is defined only as a town of St. Albans municipal park. So we have another municipality that has public recreational space too, school districts municipal space, and so is the City of St. Albans with HARD Act. They still would have to come in and work with us, but we gave ourselves a little more leeway. And then warehousing. So those are a brief overview. Happy to go into specifics, but really this is about the public and getting feedback on any places here. So we have.
All right, well, thank you for the overview. I just will say this has been a long process. And you guys have been phenomenal helps going through this. I think overall, a lot of things got a lot more permissive. We came into line with state statute and we clarified a bunch to make things hopefully simpler for folks and easier. I think we did get a little bit tougher in some areas of stormwater, and that came as recommendations from staff to be in line with what the town's trying to do on that front. So is it all right if we take comments from people in the audience here physically and then maybe online? Is that
all right with you, Jonathan?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Yep.
all right? So with that, if you just state your name, if you have a question.
Well, I don't know if this covered it yet or not, but there was a setback variance. What's that pertain to, just new construction, or does that pertain to the homeowner that already has an existing home?
Is there a specific district, sir?
Yeah, I have a porch on the front of my house,
What,
and it's,
what zoning district or address?
5 Church.
Not sure.
Church Road. And there's, the porch is 30 feet from the center of the road. And I've got a section that's 6.5 feet from the north side of my house. The porch sets away from the house. And there's still an area in the corner. And I wanted to find out if these zoning changes or anything would pertain to adding, what I'd like to do, find out if this would pertain to it. I would like to bring the porch, existing porch, out to the north side of the house, even with the north side of the house. And not coming back any further from the road, was keeping the porch, the existing porch, will add to that little corner. The corner is about 6.5 feet from the side of the porch to the north side of the house. And the porch is 10 by 10. So there's a 10 foot by 6 foot, 6.5 foot corner that I wanted to extend the porch out so it'd make it bigger, and then I wanted to make my living room come out maybe half of that, to make my existing living room bigger and make into the porch after it's filled in. If that's going to be any changes to it would affect that.
So we didn't make any changes in regards to variances or setbacks. The setbacks are still the same and the variance requirements are still the same. But if I understand correctly, maybe you want to take some of your porch space and turn it into living space,
Yes.
and then you want to extend your porch space?
I don't want to extend it any closer to the road.
Understood.
I want to leave it the existing frontage, right where it is, and then just want to fill in that corner of the 6.5 by 10 out, and it's not going to go any further than north than the side of the house.
And what are the dimensions right now? Do we know what the setback is off the top of your heads?
I can't tell what the road right of way is, but he's in the residential district, so he'd have to be 30 feet from the edge of the road right of way. So it sounds like he wouldn't make it if he's 30 feet from.
And it's
the
an
corner
existing
of the road.
porch, and it's an
Existing porch is
existing
30
porch,
feet.
but there's a variance on that porch. It's not within the setback currently?
It's 30 feet from the front of the porch, it's 30 feet from the center of the road.
So there's no changes in this update that would allow for that, but if you wanted to come in and sit down and look at some plans, I'd be happy to discuss options, but with this, you wouldn't be able, this wouldn't allow you to make a new section of porch.
So I think some of the good and the bad news is we didn't change anything in the regulations to impact your property with what you want to do. And I think AJ's offering to sit down with you and go over that, and that might actually be an issue to bring up with the Development Review Board as opposed to the Planning Commission if a variance is needed.
Yep, generally, the Development Review Board won't allow for variances, unless it is like a hazard situation, or if there's an impact that wasn't necessarily created by the applicant. If there's another option, the board would prefer to see that. So, you know, if you could take your porch and extend it on the other side, away from the road, generally that's what they would prefer to see and not give variances.
The board typically won't, they won't increase the nonconformity on your home.
It's either,
If it's already not in conformance, but it's a grandfathered in, or,
yeah, it was grandfathered in.
Yeah.
then they're not going to increase the nonconformity of it, typically.
Because as I said, I'm not going to be going any further than toward the property owner to the north, any further than the side of the house.
Your best bet would be to bring a plan in, draw it out, and speak with AJ and see what some of the options might be.
Okay.
Did you have any further questions, or?
No, that's what I thought maybe that setback variance might come into play in that, what I was talking about.
Okay. Are there any other questions from members of the audience physically here?
Is there any side, it used to be, years ago, it used to have a sideline variance. So is that still in?
There's still
Okay.
sideline.
is it?
So are
Side
you
yard.
asking about a variance or are you asking about a setback? Because those are different. So we do have sideline setbacks, but as far as variances, it's something that the town used to be very happy to grant. And then at some point, we were given the advice by our attorney that if we didn't like our bylaws, we should change them. So instead of giving people variances, we should just make our bylaws what we would like to see people do. So generally, we will not give variances.
Don't give sideline variance.
Not typically, not in the situation that you're talking about is not something the board would generally give variances for.
I'd see it if it was going to be going further than house, in other words, if it was going to be adding on to the existing
Understood.
house. But this is just going, adding on to the porch part.
Yeah,
Well,
To make it-
still,
each
I'm-
application's specific, so we can certainly sit down and look at what you're actually working with. It's hard to say without having a map in front of us and knowing exactly what you're looking at, but it doesn't sound like this change, these changes that we've made would affect what your property already looks like.
you'll still have to go with what the setbacks are, as they are delineated in this current bylaw.
Did you have a question, sir? In the green hat?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I'm a reporter.
Okay.
I usually don't have questions.
You usually have lots of questions.
Yeah.
Online?
Jonathan, do you have any comments?
Yeah, I just have one just for, just to get some thought into it. So, section 9.4.2, under scope and applicability, the second paragraph, it says if the combination of new impervious surface area created in the redevelopment or substantial reconstruction of existing impervious surface is less than 5,000 square feet, then the application is exempt from requirements in this section 9.4. I'm just wondering how you came up with the 5,000 square feet. That's my first question.
Yeah.
I don't need an answer now. I'm just something to think of. I just, whatever. But
Well-
then this whole stormwater section, I'm just wondering what kind of I don't know if you guys thought about what kind of an impact this will have on staff. Will it create, obviously it's going to create more work for the staff. So I'm just wondering, have you thought that out? What impact it will have on
Well,
staff?
I think I'm happy to sort of take that for the planning commission. Feel free to jump in, but I think we actually did the 5,000 square foot at the request of Emily, our stormwater coordinator. And all the changes predominantly in stormwater were ones requested by staff. So I think, yeah, feel free to.
I agree with that.
Yeah, and Jonathan, there's an internal debate kind of that I think since we kind of got to this point in the process that is going on, and maybe it's worth having the planning commission here from both sides. This language, a lot of it came from an ordinance, and then we put it in the bylaws to try to have things in one place, but the bylaws are enforced by the zoning administrator or the ordinance. The rules would be enforced by the stormwater coordinator. And so the debate is who should be the ultimate arbiter of making those decisions? Should it be our zoning staff or should it be our stormwater coordinator? And I don't think we have I haven't heard a good argument one way or the other why it should be one versus the other. Me personally, I think having your development rules in one place helps people know what they have to do when they're developing or doing something in the town. That being said, like our road standards, we just reference them and they're their own ordinance, so it wouldn't be out of the norm to just have it in an ordinance. But I think that still seems to be an internal conflict on staff where that ought to be, and I think the planning commission should have a final say on it, and then potentially something for the select board to weigh in as a whole. I addressed it with the town manager today, and I think we were going to see if there was enough discussion tonight, if it led us one way or the other. But I don't know if we'll get there tonight. I mean, I think the language, we can get that question answered. It'll be somewhere. It'll be either in an ordinance or in our bylaws. It's just where's the right place to put it. And I think our current staff the concern is I think our current staff could do this quite nicely, but we have to think 10, 15 years down the road, or until the staff may potentially change, and then when we get to that situation, if we don't have some of this with the technical skills Emily has in the stormwater position, or she's gone, or we don't have as we might have a more green zoning administrator, staff. Are they as comfortable enforcing this or not? So I think that's a true policy question on what way we ought to go. So I don't have a recommendation, but I think the debate's worth hearing from both sides.
Okay, that's all I have for questions for you at this time.
Jonathan, I'm not gonna put you on the spot, but even planning commission, I think something to chew on. I know another select board member emailed me today, and I emailed him. We were reading the difference between an ordinance and a bylaw, and really it really just comes down to who's ultimately the difference I see. They're both policy and legislation, if you will, from the town. Who do we have enforce the sections, and how do we see that going? So I think it's interesting to consider.
Any other questions from folks online, or?
I think Sean is a reporter for VT Digger, so I
Okay.
don't see anyone else.
Okay.
I mean,
Any other questions or follow-ups from folks in the audience physically?
Is there a copy of this online that shows the changes marked up?
so we did a lot of reformatting. So we have the whole thing would look like if we did it in like a typical editor, it would look like it all got marked up because we repositioned things but we do have that initial piece, and trying to think if there would be an easy way for us to put something online that would show the specific policy changes.
Well, so this is online, the actual changes that we made, like the beginning section that Corey read, that's online.
Oh, okay.
Or I could definitely email you a copy of it if you'd like, if that's
If it's
easier.
online, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, we did a lot of just changing. I mean, we went through like all the changes that weren't substantial, but we did all of the
No, that's fine.
statute references and stuff like that.
What you read through is online, that's.
Yep.
That's fine. Thanks.
And I just want to remind everyone, I think talking to AJ, this was more of a major rewrite, but I do see us updating this more from time to time, hopefully in the future, not going 3 years in between small adjustments. We kind of did some stuff, but we know there's more. We know the legislature made some more changes, and we'll be getting guidance from the state this summer on some housing density stuff, especially if there's water and sewer, and so we'll probably have to address those. We did get a grant for a bylaw modernization grant that regional planning's working on, so they'll have recommendations in the next 18 months where there'll be more changes. So I think this is just a continual working document, and trying to make it as easy to read and to use as possible.
Any other questions any questions from planning commissioners?
No?
All right. I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and public hearing's closed.
You guys are welcome to stay for the remaining of the meeting or leave, but go into,
Do we need to,
I think we just go back into our normal meeting.
do we need to take action on this to transfer it to the select board?
I think I'm gonna ask for one more meeting to have that debate between stormwater, what we wanna do there. Because if the select, I think, my thought process, so your input will be good here, is I think that'll end up in a debate at the select board, and I don't know which direction that'll go, and so if it gets changed and then comes back down here, we're better off just to try to get maybe some feedback and test that water a little more and see what we wanna have an internal discussion and maybe make a recommendation at the next planning commission meeting to.
So if we make changes to the
Yeah,
stormwater
we're gonna
piece
have-
now, we're gonna have to probably rewarn a hearing.
Yeah, I know that. But I think we see this initial hearing as a way to kinda,
Break the ice?
and make sure when we get to the select board, it's, we've given the public, opportunity to have input, and we don't get it all there. I mean, not to say someone's not gonna come and give us feedback there, and we may have to make changes anyway, but trying to, you know, I kicked something.
Lost it.
Yep,
Yeah, there.
Hold that thought.
That was just Sarah kicking me, Jonathan and Sean, for saying we have to have another public meeting.
For the record, my legs are way too short to do that. But no, I think that's definitely advisable, and so I think that's an invitation for feedback from more of the select board.
And if anyone on the public sees this on Northwest Access Channel, you know, please communicate to staff in the meantime. Just because this is our public meeting doesn't mean we can't continue to take public comments
Absolutely.
through this process. So if you see changes, Philip, that you may want to see, please just, you know, reach out to staff. And, you know, as the messenger's covering this in Digger, you know, there's an open invite, please reach out to staff if people review this and have concerns.
We've worked on this for a long time. We want to get this right. So a couple more weeks to get it in really, really good shape. Perfect, so send correspondence to AJ
Yep,
with any comments or questions.
yep.
And when's our next meeting? Is it June 14th? So we'll probably have more conversation yet to come then, so people also want to attend. That's probably. Did you have a comment, Ann, or?
No, just
Okay.
checking the dates.
Okay, great. Correspondence?
None.
All right. Public comment. I don't know if we've covered it or, all right. Other business.
I just have some more of a personal news and just want to inform you guys. I am resigning my position as Director of Operations effective June 3rd with the town. I will be staying on to get through this process, help on this side, but moving on to other opportunities. So just wanted to give you guys a heads up. But I'll be around through the summer as we get through this process, so this won't be our last meeting working together.
Thank you. You will be missed.
Yes.
It was devastating when I heard.
Yeah.
But
We won't go too far, still live in town.
done a lot and done a lot to help us through this process, so thank you.
Yep,
Thank you.
welcome.
Any other business? That's a hard act to follow for other business. Create agenda for next meeting, June 14th. I think we already started on that.
Yeah, I think probably, well, I don't know if we'll be able to warn another public meeting for then, if we can make that decision for then. If not, we certainly will, we have regional planning coming to talk about the kickoff of the modernization project, so they'll be here. And if there's anything else, I think that'll keep us pretty busy for a meeting.
Anything else for the agenda for the 14th? All right, minutes, May 10th.
Move they be accepted as written.
Second?
A
Anybody?
second.
Perfect. Any discussion, comments, corrections? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
There you have it. I'd entertain adjournment.
So moved.
All right, I don't think we need a second. It is 7:06 and we're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.